All right, welcome to a fresh episode of the Miami Tech Pod. We got Brian and Maria in the house. I'm your host, Will Weiner, for today. Caesar's out, unfortunately, and we're joined by the trio behind Miami NFT Week: Gianni, Ted, and Erik. What an amazing conference! Guys, thank you so much. First of all, inviting me to speak on a panel. It was absolutely incredible, and I was just blown away just by the quality of the conference and what you guys put on. So just really good job, guys. And thank you for spending a few minutes with us today. And thank you for coming on the Miami Tech Pod. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having us.
Gianni, we'll start with you. How did this whole conference come to be? Whose brainchild was it? Who started the conversation? And how did it pick up steam?
Well, having been involved in NFTs in Miami and crypto since 2014, for crypto, and then NFTs since it kind of started. And being a marketer, I definitely bought a bunch of domains early on, and had this idea as well that what can I do with these domains, because I had them for years back, and I purchased some other ones. And so my relationship with the city and Venture Miami, with Keith Carswell and the mayor and Sai Fishu, I kind of said we need to do something that's ours, that's Miami, homegrown. And I presented the idea to Keith, and then Keith had kind of like a exploratory call with some leaders in Miami, and nothing came out of that first meeting. And then we had a secondary meeting, and then I was in those conversations. I was introduced to Ted and to Erik, as people that can help make that idea come to life. And at first, it wasn't a conference. It was kind of more like a website to kind of capture everything that was happening during BTC 2022, because in 21, they weren't allowing anything other than Bitcoin to be discussed, right? Ironically speaking, they had NFTs and galleries and things like that, but they weren't allowing, other blockchains and things to be discussed, or maybe not, downplaying them a little bit. So I thought there needs to be an opportunity to have these other discussions. So I was introduced to Ted and Erik, and we got together. We had never worked together. We had never met each other. But with Keith's kind of ideas of like, these are leaders doing interesting things, and especially Ted being kind of like a leader of Miami. We got together, we had some conversations, and the timing was not perfect. Miami Tech Month was, it wasn't even revealed that Miami Tech Month was a thing or even considered. It was just Miami Tech Week, what we were talking about. And I guess with BTC and Emerge and all these things kind of happening, and kind of like, okay, let's put this into the fold. And so we met, and that's how kind of it started. But Ted and Erik can give some color to the idea of why they were suggested as people to help with this.
Yeah, for sure. Ted, love to kick it over to you. And for folks that are listening and watching, we have Ted Lucas, who here is a member of the team, also Miami legend, founder of Slip and Slide Records, the anthems to many of our childhood, listening to artists like Trick Daddy and Shrina and all that, those amazing hits back in the day. Ted, how did this whole thing came about with you, and as far as like the intersection of what you're doing on the music side of things, entertainment side of things, and then NFTs? Just curious to get your perspective on the origins of this conference, and then how you view NFTs and what's happening in the industry as a whole.
Perfect. For me, be honest, listening to your podcast early, maybe a year ago or whatever, and hearing different things that was taking place here in Miami. We coming straight out of the pandemic. We had all these things going on, all these different people moving to Miami, and all kind of things happening. And I'm here, how can I help? And I mean, how can I help was not only for people that was coming from other states and other cities. I want to know. I went down to the city of Miami and sat down with Mayor Suarez and said, how can you help the locals? And he said, Ted, I would be more than happy to help. I'd be more than happy to give you the support that you need. And like I tell everybody, he's been a man of his word. Everything he told me he was going to do, he's been able to do. I sat down with the Venture Miami team, and I wanted to just find out, how could locals interact with people who's coming in from out of town? How can our local talent get opportunities to take advantage of these things that's happening here in our backyard? And through that conversation, I was introduced to Gianni, who had this amazing idea about putting together an NFT conference. And I said, Gianni, I think it's great. I think we can make this happen. I ended up attending Bitcoin 2021, and I went and I seen there was not enough locals in the crowd. I didn't recognize enough people, and that kind of concerned me and bothered me. And then just on top of that, I didn't see enough people that looked like me at Bitcoin. It was in the middle. I tell Eric, Wynwood is Wynwood, but it's really over town, a place that my grandma was raised at. And to see all these people from around the world here locally in Miami and not enough local people attending Bitcoin, I'm calling people like, do you know this is happening right now? They wasn't aware of it. So I got enough information that it made me open my eyes to see what it is, but I wanted to make sure, like Gianni, like-minded, to put something together that people from Miami could be able to attend. I sat down with Gianni. He gave me his great idea, and then I took that. I met this gentleman named Erik at an event at a party one night, and after speaking to him, and his energy was right, his ideas was right, and how he spoke and things that he felt looked like he can help us get accomplished as well. I say, Erik, I want you to meet with Gianni. We sat down, had a meeting together. I told them my ideas and things that I want to get done and how we can put this together, and all of us came together and said, let's make it happen. It was, I think it was probably like 6 months ago, y'all. What you think it was? Right? About 6 months ago. Or longer, probably, right?
Right, like many things start at a party in Miami. Yeah, Erik, tell us about that. Was that 6 months or so ago?
Yeah, no, that's about right. And Ted accurately painted that picture. Like, he shared a little bit about what he was doing, and I'm a pretty high energy guy, and so I think it probably very quickly translated to what my model of the world is and what I believe the vision around NFT functionality and utility can be. And the idea of being able to create a platform for Miami to be able to share where it's at in its journey as becoming kind of an epicenter of tech, and more specifically Web3 driven technologies, just made a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. And I say this often, but I think it's super relevant. I grew up in Palo Alto, and when I grew up, like, my parents and my friends' parents were building and disrupting and hiring and doing all these crazy things that seemed like it was going to turn the world on its head, and lo and behold, it did. And I see that same enthusiasm, energy, and sense of purpose happening in Miami right now. And so it's a really special time and a really special place. And anything I could do to be a part of helping tell that story really, really resonated with me. And also the fact, let's be real, these two gentlemen, my co-founders, are Miami institutions. They're born, they're bred, their families are from here. They've done great things in this community. So the fact that I am this outsider that was offered a seat at this table also meant a whole heck of a lot to me as well.
That's great. I love hearing that. So I'm kind of going back to Miami NFT Week. What were some of the things coming out of that? Putting on a conference is not easy, and this was an incredible one. I think everybody just had amazing things to say, but I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes things that we don't know about.
It went super smoothly. There was never a hiccup. Like, we had no problems. We just showed up one day and it's like, oh, this is awesome. That's how it works, right, gentlemen?
It looks flawless.
Yeah.
But what were some of the things that you that were said on stage that kind of came out of it, or aha moments, or anything that you want to kind of share?
I personally didn't get to see anything. I didn't get to see any of this. I think I sat down like for a second, but really a little bit of the behind the scenes actually is quite interesting, because, as I mentioned, we had not met each other. It's not like we, like Will, Brian, Maria, we've known each other for a long time. So if we went to do something together, like we know if we, we already know our strengths. We already know how we work and what we've done. Ted and I and Erik, we don't know anything. We don't know what our strengths are. We also didn't have a staff. We didn't have any of these things. And so, Ted brought in some people, Erik brought in some people, and those people really kind of made this dream and this idea come to life. And the really interesting thing is, Ted is mentioning, people that look like him, but our group as a whole is super diverse.
Yes.
From all different walks of life, ethnicity, gender, everything. And none of us had worked together at all. Ted had worked with some of his team members. Eric had not had introduced a key person to our group that made this thing happen, but he also had not worked with this person, directly on a business level. And so to me, I think that's a huge story, that it's almost like a decentralized group that came together in a very short notice and made it work. And I believe it's because of our passion for this idea of Web3. Typically, people in Web3 are volunteeristic, people that like to volunteer for things. And I believe that kind of, it's like roll up your sleeves and get to work. And it was, as we got closer, it was endless nights of nonstop handling different things. And ultimately, the three of us complement each other quite extensively, because I'm like the techie, like Eric likes to mention, if there's an NFT that's going to be made of me, I'm going to have my laptop attached to me. It's like my accessory, as if I was like a GI Joe, and you have to put you get the little accessories. Mine's the freaking laptop. But that's really the amazing thing. And I know Eric has a quote from one of our guests that was really powerful, what Mark Cuban had said of what he witnessed after he spoke. So maybe that we can lead into some of the commentary from the outcome.
I got one I want to point out. We received our lanyards in the mail. They didn't have the printout, or they didn't have the sponsor on it. And I'm sitting there with the team. It's 48 hours before the conference, and we don't have the lanyards to give to people that's coming in.
The wristbands, right?
The wristbands, the lanyards, everything was messed up, right?
We're
48 hours away. I look over to George, the guy that's helping us put our graphics together. He said, "Ted, do you want me to go to Mexico and get it done?" I'm like, George, what are you talking about, man? Yeah, I go to Mexico right now and get it done. And I'm thinking this guy's just talking and he's just making stuff up. He's on his phone. He books a flight. He runs to Miami Airport, get lanyards made, and he's back in the morning with lanyards. But he was unable to get all of them. So if anybody came to the conference on the first day, they might didn't have lanyards, because when we received them in the mail, they was not printed out. They didn't have everything on them. And just to hear that, people wouldn't understand that someone on the team was that dedicated to jump on a flight to fly to Mexico. I didn't say New Mexico, Mexico. That go get this done and come back in less than 24 hours. That's the kind of people we had on this team that believed in us. You got to have people that really believe that what you're talking about, they can see the vision, they respect what you're doing. And honestly, man, I mean, down to the person that cleaned the bathroom. Everybody that was involved on this team with us was an incredible team. And I know we could not have done it without them. Everybody, I'm talking about from the front door to the back door, outside. We had people that was dedicated. They seen the vision. They seen this whole thing coming together, down to the fire department, down to the police department. When you got police officers giving you a high five because they see what you've been able to accomplish, that's a great feeling here in Miami to see. And I tell everybody, like Gianni just said, it was a diversified team and everybody on the team from all walks of life. But that's what Miami looked like here in 2022. And that's what you got a chance to experience. I think that the Miami NFT week was Miami culture. And everybody that we spoke with, they got a chance to say that. And that just come from everybody giving their input, giving a vision, and we was able to give y'all a display that I'm proud to stand behind it and have my team, my partners to say, hey, at the end, all right, sit down. What do you think? It's a great feeling. Great feeling.
Yeah, even the firefighters were interested in the things. I had a whole conversation with them, and I was like, he's like, I want to talk about it. Let's go. Call me afterwards.
I mean, Ted and Gianni know this, but I do a lot of these things. I've had the good fortune of basically speaking or being at all of the headline conferences across the space, pretty much in the world. This audience didn't look like any other audience. I mean, we had folks into their 90s. We had kids. We had dogs.
Yes.
And the energy around that was it was infectious. And specifically, what I like about it, I personally, I got some flack from some of my, quote, quote, inside people that, there weren't enough industry people there. But I actually challenged that, because the only way for this thing to work is by more people getting on the boat. And the fact that we had a lot of folks who were representatively new to the industry and new to the space, I think is phenomenal, because that brings that new energy and enthusiasm that we're all going to need to be able to, carry forward what the idea of Web3 and this decentralized future, and kind of usurping or displacing the Metas and the Googles and the Microsofts of the world. It's going to happen with crowds like that.
Eric, that's a really interesting point. And I think, look, to be honest, like the insiders were there just 3 months or 6 months before everybody else, right? It's not like they've been building NFTs for 20 years, right? I mean, the term NFT, sure, like floated around sort of on the fringes of crypto in 2019 and stuff like that, and took off a little bit more in 2020. But like, it wasn't until 2021 that it hit mainstream like escape velocity. But no, I think this is really like fascinating what you guys did, and I'm with you that like the more people we bring into the space, the more diversity of thought, the diversity of backgrounds, and all this stuff, the more alpha gets generated for everybody in the space, and the more interesting projects come from it, and interesting use cases. Like the use cases we're seeing now with NFTs are radically different than what was originally envisioned, for this stuff. Like we've come a long way from just NBA Top Shots or crypto kitties or whatever, what 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and like even crypto kitties, no one really like referred to them as NFTs back then. They were just like, these are some collectibles, But I'm super excited to see also what you guys think about like is going to happen at the next NFT week, NFT Miami NFT week. Sorry, next year.
Wait, are we announcing that you're coming? Like, is it official?
I mean, I assumed. I'm putting it out there that I'm manifesting this for
right.
That's right. 2023 is going to be like even more people. Like
we already started. It's already started. We already planning for next year. Like the day after. It's like there's no question about it.
And Brian, your point earlier, it's exploded. 20 was NFTs were less than $25 million in total market activity. In 21, it was just short of $25 billion. And so where we go from here, it's the sky's the limit.
Yeah. And look, and for context, like $25 million is like what our DGen WhatsApp group trades in one day now, probably. Like
I think Brian, you trade that in one day.
No. I'm like the minnow. I sort of planted the seed and then everybody else has taken off from there. But no, I think this is super interesting. And I think like I can't wait to see sort of what happens in 2023 as far as like who hasn't even gone into this industry, who will be a known name next year, And look, Maria and I were walking around the show floor, and I was commenting how like amazed and shocked at how many people were there for an industry that's barely a year old, and also in Miami on top of it, which was the backwaters of tech until 2021. Like if you had like prior to 2021, if you told me you were hosting a tech conference on crypto in Miami, it would have been like the most fringe people, not mainstream people building games and mainstream people doing stuff with this, So tip my hat, which I don't know when it's shipping, Johnny, but tip my hat.
What, number two? Number two is going to happen. And we're going to come up with some crazier things. But also, I think, Eric and Ted and I, we also want to integrate more, one of the feedbacks we got to, amazing speakers. All the speakers were very happy. They were happy with the panels. I think audience members were saying how great it was, especially even the community stage being like very intimate. They got to, interact and kind of like really engage with the speakers. But we definitely want to do more like hackathon or stuff that's going to like bring in developers, bring in engineers, match people, right? Like entrepreneurs and artists to engineers and that type of thing. And expand that further. I think that's like something we really want to look into. But yeah, there's a lot of conversations and other ideas of what to do with Miami NFT without the week, but Miami NFT week as well, right? Like just as a whole as to what we want to do. But again, like, and for me, like some of the highlights for me Number one was this was a means for, you guys know I'm doing this NFT Cuba thing. I got to meet the artist, the photographer that I purchased the second NFT that started NFT Cuba. He was on a panel with me. We got to give a hug. We got to like meet in person, and we did something, talking about Latin America and the community. Like that's a highlight for me. Just one little highlight, and I know that each of us had our little highlights of like importance of how meaningful the event was, aside from what just the whole event, actually ended up being.
Erik, Gianni just shared his most memorable moment. What was the top memorable moment for you?
I mean, so many. I think I touched on it already. The crowd, just the look and the feel and the energy of the crowd was just unbelievable. The response from our speakers, Gianni had referenced Mark Cuban when he was walking to the media bubble. He said, Erik, I don't know what you fed those people, but that was not a DeFi conference. Like that was a party or a rave. Like they're so on fire for, what's going on here. And that was incredibly heartening to hear from someone who's done hundreds of these at this point. And then even a takeaway moment, like from Monday, we did a debrief meeting, and there's 7 core people that were at that meeting. There were 4 women. Most tech doesn't look that way. So, our team that we brought together is diverse. It is in many ways eclectic, but it's exactly what I hope Web3 will be like. Because there's way too many people who look like me currently at the tech table, and it just doesn't work. And I don't want Web 2 to be the model for Web 3. I want Web 3 truly to be driven by the fact that, some person that, is sitting in the middle of nowhere Zambia or the middle of nowhere Chile has an amazing idea, and it is the next tech unicorn. And I want to be able to do everything in my power to create platforms and stages and opportunities for that to be easy for them, to make it frictionless, because I believe that's where we can go with this. I think this open, free, kind of limitless idea of what Web3 can be can't be stifled by the big boys, because if we let it kind of run its course and like shamelessly allow a company like Facebook to rebrand itself Meta, like that just doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for them and their shareholders, and that's great, but I'm gonna be the guy screaming from the top of the mountain that there's got to be a better way.
I want to piggyback on that. For me, I didn't do this conference just to be doing. Like I told you before, locals was important for me. One thing, if I had to improve something, I would make sure high school kids and college kids are more at this conference. I did reach out. We dedicated 500 tickets to local high schools. We didn't get the opportunity to have them there. I think transportation was a problem, but I definitely want to wake up local high school kids and college kids to get more in this space. We all have relationships with the universities, the Florida Memorial, the Miami Days, the FIU, the UM, even Berry College reached out. I want to make sure next year I'm aiming for, at the minimum, 10% of the crowd is local kids that's involved, but 20% will look even better. For me, I tell everybody, music gave me an opportunity to change my life and help me provide for my family and take care. And I think what's happening here in South Florida in the tech space, if we can give those kids that same opportunity, access, it's a lot of great things that's going on around, and we got to expose them to it and get them to it as soon as possible. And that's something that we're going to work on throughout this year. We did this, like I said, in 6 months, y'all. With a year planning, we're really going to take this thing to a whole nother level. I got 2 incredible partners that thinks outside the box. If it would have been left up to Erik, we probably would have had a real blimp over the whole thing, because he thinks outside the box. This guy has some great ideas. Yeah, he really thinks outside the box, man. And that's something that excites me. And Gianni got a heart like mine, and making sure that our local community is involved in this. And so you put both together. Erik goes out, he calls us 2 weeks before, hey, I'm in Dubai. Eric, where? I'm in Dubai right now. I'll be back next week. But he's out getting great ideas to bring back, and that's what makes it so good. So when you take his great ideas and Gianni great ideas, what you guys got a chance to see is that's when a great team come together and we work together. And I'm like, just tell me what we got to get done. I'll be back. I'll go get the hammer. I'll go get the nails, and I'll make sure we get it done. And that's what we got.
I love that. My God, I can only imagine what next year is going to be like if it
Yes.
was only 6 months. And the fact that y'all just met each other, I'm still baffled with the fact that you guys didn't know each other before this. Like, you guys came together like Voltron on this conference. For real.
Damn, I think we need. How many characters in Voltron? How many of the was it 7?
I think something like 7. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
But
it was.
It was 6. I just wanted to mention it was about 6 months, but really like literally like 90 days when we kind of like got kind of green lighted to like let's go, because the Miami Tech month April was like, oh, by the way, we're doing it this day. This is when the month starts. And we're like, oh, okay, can we do it? Let's go. And so yeah, us combined 6 months and then 90 days to like kind of get it done.
90 days, but 20-hour days. Honestly, everybody was accounted for.
Yeah.
We on a call 9 in the morning. We on a call at 6 p.m. We meeting face to face. I told my wife and I told my family, I see you guys April 4th, because I knew for a fact I was gonna get down deep into it and I wasn't gonna be bothered. I blocked out all my other business opportunity. I didn't do no music. I didn't do nothing else but Miami NFT. That was it. And I made sure that we went to work.
So I want to give you guys the opportunity to kind of ask the community for anything. Help, I don't know, sponsorship for NFT Week next year. What would you like to see from the community?
I would love to sit down with Dade County School Boards and figure out a way to make sure that our kids are in the crowd. I really want you to be able to see the kids are our future, y'all. And a lot of you hear people say that for real, but a lot of us on this podcast right now, we blessed to probably have another 60, 70 years left on this earth. And we got to make an impact in our community. We got to make an impact on these kids that's coming up behind us and be able to give them an opportunity to. You hear all these stories about, Miami's costing a lot. People can't. We got to give those kids a chance to be able to be the Miami that we grew up in. Only way we're going to do that, I'm investing in some great young founders here that I find. I spend my time. I did a lot of time into investing in music artists. Now I'm spending time in finding founders that's here locally and giving them that family and friend round that they need. We don't, in our community here in South Florida, a lot of them might don't have that family and friend round to give them. So I want to be here. I want to come back to Eric. I want to come back to Gianni and say, I need 25,000. I need 25,000. I found this young founder. He has a great opportunity to help his platform get off the ground. And I go to my partners and we put money behind them. That's what we're here to do. And I want to be able to get Dade County School Board, Miami-Dade, FIU, Florida Memorial, Berry, University of Miami, to have those kids in there. That's the only thing. I've seen some kids, but I would love to have more kids, at the minimum 10% in 2023 packed up in there. And we're giving out tickets to make sure they're there. Eric, can I get 1,000 tickets? Johnny, can I get 1,000 tickets at the minimum to make sure our kids are in there at the conference next year?
Love that. Eric, how about
you?
For
me, it's mainly around the creators. I love the idea of bringing in the young voices, because that is our future, and that's who's going to be the ultimate driver of this next iteration of what our web experience is like. I love the creator community in Miami, and so I just want them to know that they have a place at Miami NFT. Some of the other conferences in the space can be a little, let's be real, elitist, and I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's, kind of how it's fallen into place. That's not with us. So my email is the letter E at Miami NFT Week. If you have a project, if you have an idea, if you have, even like something that you've just sketched on the back of a napkin, our commitment across the board, Ted, Gianni, and myself, is we want to help you have that be a reality. And we're happy to utilize our network and our resources to be able to be a sounding board for you, a facilitator for you. And more importantly, as we go forward and we have this conference again and again and again here in Miami, that you have a seat at the table to participate. And so please take me up on this. If you're hearing my voice and you have that idea or you have that project and you're not getting traction, please reach out to us, because that's the whole idea behind the community stage. Was we wanted to give projects an opportunity to share their roadmap and their vision, because you know as well as I do, many of these are amazing. They just didn't get the traction for whatever reason. And so if they don't have that attractive floor price or they don't have that right partnership, it becomes, very daunting for them. And whatever we can do to be a catalyst and offer a springboard to really get them the visibility that they probably deserved from day one, I think is nothing short of magical.
Love that answer.
Yeah.
Tony, how about you?
For me, it's exactly what Erik said right now. It's next year. We gave a couple opportunities to some local startups. One in particular is doing something in the high school sports and NFT space, and he reached out to me, and we were able to enable him in a way so he had an opportunity to speak, so he had an opportunity to have a booth. We had a portion of the conference that was a community area, almost a curated aspect of who could be put into community booths, right? Like what Erik was saying, like if there's an artist, if there's like any of that stuff, we want to hear about that earlier than later so that we can enable them to have a presence there. Like at some point, because I think NFTs like break the barriers in tech. It's a cultural thing. You have art, you have artists combining with engineers that looking for artists and entrepreneurs and all that. I think it blurs the line between if you go to B 2022, you're going to see mine companies and crypto companies, and there is kind of a gallery there, but there's not much else for people to interact with and participate in. And so almost like a Comic-Con, like a bigger vision would be like a whole, the artists that are behind the scenes with these projects also displaying and getting to know and something to that effect. So exactly what Erik mentioned and what Ted's, and we're all looking for that. I think everybody in this call, actually in this thing, we're looking for those amazing, cool projects, and we want to see the ones that are local. We want to see the ones that are being brewed here. And if they reach out to Erik or myself, and by the way, it's G at Miami NFT Week or T at Miami NFT Week, made it very simple to get a hold of us, and our emails are open.
That's awesome. And it seems like what you guys are building is not just a week, like you alluded to earlier. You're building something year round, an organization that can support local artists and NFTs throughout the year. So really excited to hear more about that as you guys announce it. Ted, want to kick it back to you. Curious to get your thoughts on this, because you've been in Miami a long time. Miami has established itself as kind of like ground zero, the breeding grounds right now for the NFT. It's like the center of the NFT world right now. It feels like, there are very few places in the world that has the central force of energy and gravity that Miami has when it comes to Web3 and NFTs. From your perspective, as a Miami OG, someone's been here a long time, what do you think it is that made the intersection of Miami and NFTs so perfect? Why is Miami such a great city to have all this amazing energy cultivated?
First of all, I have to give my hats off to the two best mayors in the world, Mayor Carver and Mayor Suarez, Francis, for what they've been able to do and open up here. Mm-hmm. I really feel like they open the door for other people to come in and not just visit mine. This ain't just a vacation no more. It's a place where you come here, you can conduct business. And then they open the doors for local people like myself, people like Gianni. What you see on this call, Erik is from out of town. He moved here. He got in business with some local guys here, and then you get NFT, Miami NFT Week in the places where it is that would just took place. Let me just say this: I really feel like back in 1998, the music was changing from Luther Campbell, right? And it wasn't dancing and booty shaking and all that anymore. It was changing, and it was the culture of music was changing. And I was able to get in a space where I was able to open the doors for Trick Daddy, who was a different type of rapper. He wasn't like Luther Campbell. He had that Miami swag, but he told real life stories. Trina from Liberty City told real life stories. Rick Ross from Carol City, he told real life stories. Pitbull told real life stories. Well, right now in 2022, that's where we at with the NFT space. I really feel like when the music boom took off for us in 1998, 1999, I remember the Super Bowl was here and we had the hottest record in every club you went into. Everybody in the world was singing, "You Don't Know Nan." And I feel like I won the Super Bowl that year. I'll never forget it. I feel like that's where we at right now in 2022 with NFTs. We're at a space where it's early. People can get in. I take a young lady, Ariana the Techa, right? Ariana Tech. She got in. She started an NFT 90 days ago. This young lady raised $3.3 million and closed out her round. Come on, y'all. A young lady. Just that's what I'm talking about. Who can come up with an NFT, go get funding and be done and close out her round 3.3 in 90 days. That's where we at. And we got to just find more people like that, give them this opportunity. That's where we are here in South Florida. And it's a magnet. And that's what's happening here right now. And we're in the middle of all this going on. I'm excited about it. It makes me can't sleep at night because I want to beat the grounds and continue to give that next young female, that next young entrepreneur male to get a chance to do what they got to do. So that's how I feel. The same thing that happened in the music boom here in South Florida is happening right now in the tech space.
I love that.
Well, but Ted, I mean, it wasn't you were betting on rap as a macro thesis. You were finding great artists and saying,
Yes.
I want to support them. And it's the same right now.
Yes.
Great founders. Like, I'm honestly often, from an investment standpoint, I'm more agnostic about their exact particular idea. But if I see that passion and enthusiasm and the fire, that I know that they're going to work no matter what, work like our team did to put something on. Yes. Like, those are the people I want to back all day long.
100%. 100%. I tell everybody that's exactly right what Erik is saying. I like to have somebody that make me even sleep at night because I can't let them outwork me. My team did that for me, and I want to find founders that's like that as well. We betting on the founder. Like, I want to be able to see that founder that's going to outwork anyone else, and we're going to give them the support that they need and that family and friends around to get what they need to get done.
I love that. I love that. And Gianni, for someone who's also been in the scene for a long time, you've seen it all, especially with crypto, right? The onset of Ethereum, right? And being early as part of that squad. And now what's happening with the NFT space in Miami. How you feel about everything that's going on? Because you're right smack dab in the center of everything. How you just feeling about all this energy? And also, do you think Miami, unfortunately, sometimes we have that stigma that we're a boom and bust city, but something feels different about now. Just it does, right? There's something different about the energy. Do you feel that way as well? Just curious to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, if I think back, Brian has been at it for a long time. So has Maria, and so as you will. But the day that I started like a little experiment, and Brian said, "Here, have a table, put your shirts here, sell it for only crypto," and and I was able to invite people that were like in the Bitcoin space and the crypto space early on. That's a forum. That's like a launch pad of relationships and friendships and things that continue to grow year after year after year, where I wouldn't be here in this call with you guys had that not happened then. And I think now, because of this conference, because of these people that have moved to Miami, because of the vibe of Miami, that we are a city of immigrants, and we all learn how to make it work, and we want to contribute. We want to meet each other. We want to help each other. I think it's why that's why we're able to heed that call to how can we help. Like, it happened because it all just happened all at once, because I think we were training for it. We just didn't have that the opportunity had not presented itself, and now that it's here, we're just taking advantage of the situation, and I don't think it's going to bust. People, every conversation I have, I can't believe I visited Miami. I can't believe why I never decided to move here, or live here or do stuff. And honestly, Miami, the city of Miami, and we love Mayor Suarez, but the reality of Miami is huge. We have so much area to grow, and there's so many other places that other little mini hubs can start blossoming and people moving to. And I think we have the perfect opportunity to do something huge. And it's great. We know the Miami OGs that know that, like, now there's, education also is catching up. because they see the demand of what's necessary, and they're heeding that call as well. So and it's all happening all at once, and I don't think it's going to bust at this time.
Can I add something to that? After the conference, I'm trying to slow down and everything. People are calling me. I have meetings with gentlemen that has made their mind up after coming to Miami NFT Week that they're moving to Miami. One gentleman from St. Louis, and I'm saying this is what I'm talking about. When you're able to put on an event like this, and you're like, hey, I got to be here. Back, and I ain't gonna say the city where they're from. Back home, it's dead. I feel life. I feel energy here in Miami. And Ted, I'm moving to Miami. I'm like, good luck finding a place, but he's like, I gotta do it. So no, that's when you put on a great conference and do that, and you have people to tell you your conference is making me want to move here to Miami. Yeah, we're doing something right.
Well, that is so amazing to hear. And the good news is we're building. There's cranes everywhere, right? There's lots of right now, right? So there's more housing coming. But I love that. And the ethos of Miami has always been real special for me because Miami is one of the most welcoming cities, I think, in the world, right? Because it is a city built on immigrants. It's built on people that fled other areas to find a better life for themselves. Here you have a great example, right? You have two Miami OGs, Gianni and Ted. Erik, you just moved to Miami, and you're at the center of the ecosystem now, building one of the premier NFT conferences and building something incredibly special, chatting with the mayor, collaborating with the mayor. I don't know many other cities that can offer something like that, so.
No, 100%. And I think it's a testament to the fact that we, have this environment here where people realize, hey, I can do it by myself, but really in the same vein as Web3, it's more about collaborating and elevating together. And so I think that Miami's future is incredibly bright. And, Will brought up a great point, boom or bust. The responsibility, I think, for us as, let's call it, influential or have the opportunity to build here, we need to create the environment to continue to bring in the young intellectual capital, because that's my biggest long-term concern around the city, is that we have these kids that are coming up and they go elsewhere, or they're educated here and they don't stay. What made the Silicon Valley great was primarily driven by Stanford, Berkeley, and institutions like that, and New York with their, higher education network. We need to make sure that we have an ecosystem here where we can get a predictable funnel of young intellectual capital, because that gives us the staying power. And so that's the biggest wild card that I see that could be an impediment to the story of what Miami can become. And I personally talk about it all the time. I want to be able to help facilitate taking those kids from the K-12 environment and putting them, if it's not a traditional 2 or 4 year track, some sort of incubator or some sort of, I don't want to call it a trade school, but really just an incubator where they can learn these major, fundamental tenets of Web3, coding, Solidity, whatever it may be, so they can stay here and they can help us fuel what the vision of Miami really, really can become. Because I do believe where it's situated, it cannot be, seen as what it is right now, the capital of Latin America. It can be the capital of the tech world. The funnel between Dubai and Latin America and the New York to LA and, Silicon Valley corridor, all roads can truly lead to Miami. And I think the only reason that doesn't happen is if we drop the ball and we don't pick up that one missing component.
So Erik, I think you're spot on. I mean, so I'm, for those who don't know, I'm an advisor to Mayor Cava on tech industry stuff, focused on the talent pipeline. And it's definitely a conversation we've had many times of how do we solve that, not just for the K through 12 age or the college age, but also post adults, right? People who need to reskill and things like that in their careers, because there's tons of folks who are in jobs that don't have long-term career prospects, that we need to get them into higher paying jobs. A lot of those are locals. But I think one important thing to keep in mind is people always say oh, Silicon Valley has a better educational network. Silicon Valley has 2 anchor schools that don't produce more than 500, graduates or 1,000 graduates a year. You know, Silicon Valley's superpower is that they're able to attract people, the best and the brightest from all over. And so we need to figure out how do we attract too, you know, and that's not to exclude the locals who are here, but we need to be cognizant of how do we balance that? How do we make Miami an attractive place for not just the 22-year-old college grads, but the 35-year-olds, the 55-year-olds, you know? And so that means like taking a sober look at our infrastructure in our city and saying like, look, we've done okay. How do we do great? You know, how do we do great by our citizens and also our future citizens? You know, and that's focusing on everything, or that's paying attention to everything from transit to accessibility to equity to all these other things. But it's great that we have people like you who've got this energy and this drive to make that happen, because the beauty of Miami is effectively the American dream embodied, right? People come here for opportunity, right? You know, and I love what Matt Hagman's doing with Opportunity Miami, of showcasing these stories of, you know, of what the challenges are and who's pursuing it. But Miami is also a permissionless town, so to speak. You know, like anybody can come and contribute, and I think that's what we need to sort of that's got to be the takeaway, that anybody can contribute to this bigger cause, because it's not like you have to be from 100-year-old family that's been here. You know, like my family, I'm a first generation Miamian. My mom came from Panama seeking opportunity. My dad came from Philadelphia. You know, like this is all roads, like you said, all roads lead to Miami, you know, and all the opportunity that comes from here. So I'm super excited that you're as passionate about this as the rest of us, especially since you're new to town. So,
Brian, I thought that was a shameless plug for the permissionless conference next month.
See, there's so many conferences I can't even keep track. I didn't even know that was a thing. You know,
you brought up though Stanford and Berkeley. I'm sure you guys know this, but I'll just share with your viewers. The story of Silicon Valley, often like the roots of it, was Stanford in the late 60s and early 70s intentionally hosted free technology symposiums for people up and down the West Coast. And they invited everyone from, you know, Oregon, Seattle, LA, all over the country to come in and see the technology integration and like the technology idea of the future that was going on at Stanford. And lo and behold, it attracted a whole bunch of intellectual capital who ended up staying there. And then they ended up building and growing. And it became this whole self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's my point in bringing up, you know, these opportunities for people to be able to have their ideas germinate and grow here, because when that happens, people tend to hire where they are. And so if we are able to seed 50 or 100 or 1,000 of those companies with great intention on a yearly basis, very quickly that has, you know, that has an amplifier effect. And that trickles down not only to hiring in Web3, that has effects in, you know, construction, and where, you know, new dry cleaners popping up, new restaurants. And so you get this robust economic environment that I want to see here, because right now I think that, you know, you're seeing this boom in Miami. And we laughed early on about, you know, an interview that that the three founders did, where someone was challenging us about affordability, but it all needs to play, because if we're only building up here at the top,
Correct.
it really isn't sustainable. So, you know, it's Will and Brian and Maria, like when we have a great idea and we hire 3 people, that they're reseeding that capital back into the local economy and making sure that it really is not just this one time, you know, spike, pump and dump, or boom or bust, like Will said, but it has a long-term tailwind where we can look back in, you know, 10, 15, 20 years and say, oh my gosh, this was that transformational inflection point where Miami went from, you know, the cruise capital of the world to, you know, the crypto capital of the world. And it happened because of the efforts of a few dedicated people.
I love that. I love that. Wow. I mean, all the stuff that you guys are talking about, you know, I'm so happy you guys came on the pod today, because it's just really great to put the faces and the names to this conference and what you guys are doing. And not just that, but the ethos behind what you're building, because the ethos of Web3 and NFTs is all about being equitable, providing access, providing opportunities, leveling the playing field. And it's clear that you guys are thinking about that at the forefront of everything that you're doing. So I'm really happy and grateful that you guys jumped on the pod to share with our viewers, why you did this and why you're continuing to do it. It wasn't just a quick conference just to do a conference. You guys are building something here for the long run, and we're grateful that you're doing it in Miami. And keep up the amazing work, guys. It's phenomenal. I thought the conference was incredibly executed, well done. I know there's a million things that can go and happen behind the scenes, like a guy having to travel to Mexico to pick up lanyards, but you guys pulled it off flawlessly, and thank you for all the work you're doing. I just ask that you please keep us in the loop with all the stuff and the developments as they happen. It would be amazing.
And we want a bubble to record the podcast from the conference next year.
We tried. It was a noisy
You
floor.
don't want that bubble.
Yeah, we're gonna get a cool one. Let me say this, and I mean this, and I'm not just saying this to say this. A year ago, y'all, I did not know much about tech, right? And I did my research and did work to get to the point to be able to put on this conference. And I want to tell y'all something. This podcast that we're on right now has so much to do with that. I remember when I first was listening to the first couple episodes, and then when I closed the deal with AJ and you guys mentioned Ted Lucas, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm on the outside looking in and just letting you know how much information you are providing to us in South Florida off this podcast. I just want to take my hat off to y'all and tell you how much impact you're doing here in South Florida as well. And like I said, someone say, Ted, if you want to learn about tech, get on the Miami Tech podcast, and they got information on that. So it made a difference to help me to be able to sit down with partners and be able to have meetings and just get the knowledge. One thing, people don't have to go to the library no more just to get this knowledge. You got podcasts like yourself and information that's out there. So y'all, you're doing a great job, and I want to just let you know that. I appreciate it.
Chills, man. Thank you so much. Got goosebumps just hearing that, so thank you. We're going to drop all of the information for Miami NFT Week in the description of the podcast, so you guys could check it out. And just judging by what these three gentlemen are saying, this is not a week-long conference moving forward. This is an organization and a movement that they're starting in Miami. So please keep track of what they're doing and what they're building. And like I mentioned before, please, guys, whenever you have something to announce, come back on the pod, and we'll make sure we share with our viewers. So thank you for being here.
100%.
Thanks so much for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.